The narrative begins with an independent honor student coming home from school, expecting another quiet day at her boarding house. But the moment she arrives, a handsome college student greets her as if he has been living there forever. She immediately panics. She has never seen this guy before, yet he acts like his presence is the most normal thing in the world. The story then cuts back to school, where Kotoha, a 16-year-old student, walks through the hallway while other students stare at her blonde hair and unique appearance. She naturally attracts a lot of attention, but despite that, her school life has always been fairly peaceful. Or at least it was until now. As soon as she enters the classroom, Kotoha drops into her seat, already feeling mentally drained. Her usual peaceful routine has been completely thrown off. When her friends ask what is wrong, she brings up Sachio, the elderly landlady of her boarding house who lives in a rather isolated area. Kotoha quickly tries to defend the boarding house, but then explains what actually happened. Sachio seriously injured her back after slipping on her way to the gym. She can barely move properly now and will need around 3 months to recover. That is when Kotoha brings up the real problem, the strange man who has suddenly appeared in her house. Sachio casually explains that his name is Itsuki, her nephew's son, and a college senior who is currently on vacation. Since Sachio cannot take care of the boarding house while recovering, she has decided to let Itsuki manage the place for the time being. She says this as though the problem has been completely solved. To make matters worse, Sachio mentions that she has already warned Itsuki not to do anything strange. Instead of reassuring Kotoha, that comment makes the whole situation sound even more suspicious. Kotoha immediately objects. There is no way she feels comfortable living under the same roof as a complete stranger. To her, the entire arrangement is one giant warning sign. But Sachio refuses to change her mind. She simply tells Kotoha to depend on Itsuki whenever she needs help and then ends the call, leaving Kotoha to deal with the situation herself. Back at the boarding house, Itsuki calmly explains the arrangement and suggests that the two of them simply get along for the next 3 months. To him, it sounds completely reasonable. To Kotoha, it sounds anything but that. When she tells her friends about everything that happened, Kotoha is already completely worn out. Hanoka, however, has the exact opposite reaction. She thinks the whole situation sounds amazing. According to her friends, living together with an older college guy is basically a dream come true. They treat the situation like something from a romantic fantasy. Kotoha does not understand their excitement at all. She is far more uncomfortable than excited, especially because Itsuki keeps doing things that make him seem even more suspicious. Delicious meals somehow appear whenever she needs them. Her room is always spotless without her having to clean it herself. He even serves her tea with the manners of a professional host. Her friends are amazed by how well he takes care of everything. Some of them even joke that Kotoha should just make Itsuki her boyfriend. Others are less enthusiastic, pointing out that a college student getting involved with a high school girl would be seriously questionable. Meanwhile, outside the school gates, a strange man has been standing around for some time. His presence soon catches the students' attention, and they begin whispering among themselves. Some wonder if he is someone's father, while others guess that he might be an older brother or someone's boyfriend. Then Kotoha spots him. Her entire body stiffens the moment she recognizes him. It's Itsuki. Her friends call out to her and tell her to come see who is outside, but before they can figure out what is going on, Kotoha suddenly rushes out of the classroom. A moment later, she is standing directly in front of Itsuki. Already irritated, she demands to know why he would come all the way to her school. Itsuki remains completely calm. He explains that Kotoha forgot her lunch, so he came to deliver it to her. Since he does not have her contact information, he could not simply call or message her. As far as Itsuki is concerned, coming to the school was the obvious solution. He even starts thinking about what he should do next, completely unaware of how strange the situation looks from Kotoha's perspective. Kotoha can only stare at him in disbelief. None of this feels real to her. Then, a teacher arrives after hearing reports about a suspicious man hanging around the school. He immediately recognizes Kotoha, while she recognizes him as Kumada, a teacher from student guidance. Her mood instantly gets worse. Kumada wastes no time criticizing her appearance. As usual, he focuses on her piercings and blonde hair, treating them as a problem. He then turns his attention toward Itsuki and demands to know who he is. Itsuki calmly explains that he is Kotoha's landlord and only came to bring her the lunch she forgot. Unfortunately, Kumada is not convinced. He dismisses the explanation and orders Itsuki to leave the school grounds immediately. By now, several students have gathered nearby, whispering as they watch the situation unfold. Kumada then turns his attention back to Kotoha. He starts criticizing her hair and piercings once again, claiming that her appearance damages the school's image. He refuses to accept the idea that students should be allowed to express themselves, insisting that they should simply follow the rules adults have created. Kotoha tries to endure it. She has heard these kinds of lectures countless times before. Adults always seem determined to force their own idea of what is normal onto everyone else. But when Kumada raises his voice again, Itsuki suddenly moves in front of Kotoha. He does not shout or lose his temper. Instead, he calmly tells Kumada that people should be free to enjoy the things they genuinely like. He also points out that careless words from adults can remain in a child's mind for a very long time. His voice is quiet, but his words carry real weight. Kumada is clearly caught off guard. He never expected someone to challenge him like this. He tries to take back control by raising his voice and yelling at the students who have gathered to watch. But Kotoha barely notices them anymore. For the first time, someone has actually stood up for her instead of telling her that she needs to change. Before Kotoha can fully process what is happening, Itsuki casually reaches over and pats her on the head. The simple gesture catches her completely off guard. Suddenly, a memory of her mother comes rushing back. She remembers her mother telling her that other people's opinions should not control her and that she should never abandon the things she loves simply because someone else disapproves. The memory stays with Kotoha. When she returns to the present, her view of Itsuki has started to change. Maybe he is not the troublesome adult she originally thought he was. For the first time, Kotoha begins to wonder if having Itsuki around might not be such a bad thing after all. Later that day, Kotoha returns to the boarding house. She takes a deep breath before entering, determined to properly thank Itsuki for everything he has done. But as soon as she opens the door, she discovers that Itsuki is already asleep on the couch. The sight catches her by surprise. She quietly approaches and notices a book lying nearby. The title is about obtaining a chef certification. Suddenly, everything makes sense. That explains why Itsuki's cooking is so impressive. Even though he has his own responsibilities, he still goes out of his way to prepare meals for her and take care of the house. The realization affects Kotoha more than she expected. Just then, Itsuki suddenly wakes up. Kotoha is so startled that she nearly loses her balance. Itsuki casually greets her while she awkwardly returns the greeting, still flustered. She reminds herself that she came home for one reason: to properly thank him. Gathering her courage, she prepares to say what is on her mind. But before she can finish, Itsuki suddenly moves closer to her. The space between them quickly disappears. Kotoha's heart skips a beat and she immediately panics. Her mind immediately jumps to the worst possible conclusion. When Itsuki tells her to take something off, Kotoha completely loses it. She starts imagining all kinds of suspicious possibilities and accuses him of having bad intentions. In an instant, the soft atmosphere turns into complete chaos. Itsuki quickly tries to explain himself. There is actually a bug on her shoulder, and he panicked because he was worried it might crawl somewhere else. Kotoha immediately snaps back, annoyed that he could not have simply said that from the beginning. She hurriedly shakes her shoulder, sending the bug flying away. For a moment, Kotoha is too shaken to say anything. She simply stands there, trying to process what just happened. Meanwhile, Itsuki returns to his usual calm self and casually starts thinking about dinner. Kotoha, however, is left feeling extremely embarrassed. She knows she completely misunderstood the situation, but she still thinks Itsuki deserves some of the blame for explaining it in the worst possible way. In her mind, this is partly his fault too. As Itsuki puts on his apron, he reminds Kotoha that she was about to tell him something earlier. Instead of thanking him, she completely changes direction. She warns him to behave like a proper landlord and threatens him in an exaggerated way. She then turns to leave, but her foot suddenly slips. Before she can hit the ground, Itsuki catches her without hesitation and steadies her. Once again, they end up standing extremely close to each other. Itsuki calmly reassures her, promising that he will properly take care of everything. He even tells her that he will do his best to keep her happy. His words sound completely sincere, but the way he says them affects Kotoha far more than she expects. Her face turns bright red as her thoughts immediately become chaotic again. She quickly snaps back and tells him that the problem is not what he says, but the way he says it. And just like that, their new daily life begins, though there is nothing peaceful about it. The next morning looks like something straight out of a luxury hotel advertisement. Itsuki prepares a full breakfast with pancakes, eggs, bacon, and plenty more. Meanwhile, Kotoha goes through an entire beauty routine, treating her morning preparation like she is getting ready for the final battle of her life. By the time they finally sit down for breakfast, Itsuki casually mentions that Kotoha gets up at 6 every morning. As she calmly starts applying her makeup, Itsuki realizes just how long her routine actually takes. He can only sit there and wonder how she manages to spend so much time getting ready every day. But for Kotoha, putting on makeup is about much more than simply looking good. It reminds her of her past. She remembers being judged and mocked because of her appearance, even though she simply loved cute things. Those experiences affected her deeply, and eventually she decided to change herself on her own terms. She started watching what she ate, learned how to apply makeup, and slowly created the version of herself she had always wanted to become. Over time, she began to genuinely like the person she saw in the mirror. Her entire transformation had become a source of confidence. Now, makeup feels like her strongest armor. It is not just about her appearance anymore. It gives her the confidence to be herself. Today, she proudly shows Itsuki her pink glitter makeup, clearly pleased with how it turned out. At first, Itsuki cannot even see it properly, accidentally revealing that he has no idea what she is talking about. But then he leans closer to get a better look, and suddenly, there is almost no space between them. Kotoha immediately freezes. Her brain practically shuts down from the sudden loss of personal space. She quickly backs toward the door, her heart racing as she wonders what just happened. Itsuki simply looks confused and asks if she is okay. He has absolutely no idea that his sudden closeness has sent Kotoha into complete panic. As she thinks about it afterward, Kotoha realizes something incredibly annoying. Itsuki has absolutely no sense of personal space. He casually gets close to her without warning, as if it is completely normal. And every time he does, she ends up caught off guard. The most frustrating part is that he probably does not even realize he's doing it. Still, Kotoha gets distracted while looking through her cosmetics. She fluffs her hair and admires her carefully arranged makeup before remembering Itsuki again. And the moment she does, she gets annoyed all over again. Somehow, that guy has already managed to take up way too much space in her thoughts. Later at school, Kotoha receives her midterm results and proudly shows them off. Her scores are excellent. Her friends immediately get excited, and Kotoha proudly reminds them that she is not just someone who cares about her appearance. She is also an honor student. She has both sides covered. But then her eyes land on Kumada. Kotoha gives him a small, satisfied smile, almost as if she has just won a silent battle against him. Kumada, however, still mutters to himself and clearly remains unimpressed. His strict way of thinking has not changed at all. Even after seeing her excellent grades, he refuses to reconsider his opinion of her. Another teacher even notices him talking to himself and wonders what is going on with him. Meanwhile, Hanoka points out how hard Kotoha works. She manages several part-time jobs while still maintaining her excellent grades. But that busy lifestyle comes with a price. Recently, Kotoha has started looking extremely tired. Her exhausted expression can even make her seem intimidating without her meaning to. Kotoha casually brushes it off and admits that she has barely slept for 3 days. She is not trying to scare anyone. Her face simply looks that way when she is completely exhausted. Still, she does not care enough to change herself for other people's opinions. She has her own reasons for living the way she does, and she proudly sticks to her style and choices. At this point, she is surviving on caffeine, determination, and sheer stubbornness, and somehow, she is still managing to succeed. The next morning, her alarm rings. Kotoha suddenly wakes up and immediately realizes something is wrong. She checks her phone and freezes. It is already the exact time she normally leaves the house. Her pride takes an instant hit. She has never been late before, and now her perfect record is about to collapse. If she starts doing her makeup now, there is no way she will make it on time. Then there is a knock at the door. Itsuki calmly calls out that breakfast is ready. Kotoha panics and quickly tells him that she overslept and does not have time to eat. Inside her head, everything turns into one giant panic loop. Makeup, time, school. Everything feels hopeless. Then Itsuki casually suggests that she could simply skip first period. Kotoha freezes. She cannot believe he actually suggested it. To someone like her, skipping class feels almost like committing a crime. But Itsuki remains completely relaxed. He explains that missing one first period will not destroy her perfect record. Sometimes things simply do not go according to plan. Those words slowly take some of the pressure off Kotoha. Her shoulders relax as she realizes just how much stress she has been putting on herself. Meanwhile, Itsuki stands there completely relaxed. almost like a cheerful sunflower next to someone who is constantly overthinking. Kotoha stares at him and bluntly tells him that he is weird. Even so, she cannot deny that his attitude is strangely comforting. That realization affects her more than she expected. She slowly opens the door and quietly thanks him, deciding that she will eat breakfast after all. Itsuki simply nods as if nothing unusual happened. He tells her that she cannot go into battle on an empty stomach. Somehow, that statement fits him perfectly. With that, the morning finally gets underway. Kotoha goes back into her usual transformation mode. She carefully does her makeup, fixes her hair, chooses her accessories, and makes sure every detail is perfect. She proudly treats it as her special gal morning routine, as if she has unlocked a stronger version of herself. Today feels different. She feels more confident, more polished, and more prepared than usual. When she finally steps outside, Kotoha confidently declares that she is basically at level 100 today. She is fully prepared and ready to take on the day. Then Itsuki casually looks at her and says that she looks cute. That single word hits Kotoha harder than anything else that morning. Her mind completely stops. Kotoha's pride takes a massive hit. Her face immediately turns bright red. She starts panicking internally, then loudly denies that anything happened and quickly runs out of the house as if she can escape the embarrassment by leaving it behind. And just like that, another chaotic morning begins. The scene then shifts to Kotoha finally reaching her limit. She looks at the breakfast table. The food looks like it came from an expensive restaurant. There are flowers on the table, and everything around the house is perfectly clean. To Kotoha, it is simply too much. She demands to know what Itsuki thinks she is. Some kind of celebrity? A wealthy lady who expects to live in luxury? She cannot understand why everything has to be so extravagant. Itsuki gives her a surprisingly simple answer. He just wants her to stay healthy. The answer catches Kotoha off guard, but instead of calming her down, it makes her suspicious again. She immediately asks whether he is spending all this money from the rent she pays. Itsuki laughs and explains that he is also using the opportunity to practice his cooking, so they both benefit from it. As far as he is concerned, it is a win-win situation. Kotoha immediately rejects the idea. She hates feeling like she owes someone something, especially when money is involved. Her pride simply will not allow her to accept such an arrangement. Itsuki can only stand there, slightly overwhelmed as he realizes that Kotoha is actually taking this very seriously. After quickly finishing her breakfast, Kotoha suddenly claps her hands as an idea comes to her. She has no part-time job today. That means she has plenty of free time. Perfect. She grabs her bag and announces that she is going to teach Itsuki how to shop properly. Itsuki barely has time to understand what she means before Kotoha drags him along. Apparently, this has now become a mandatory side quest. Once they arrive at the market, Kotoha immediately switches into expert mode. She takes Itsuki to the cheapest supermarket she knows and starts explaining everything she has learned about shopping. She points out the best deals, tells him which days have the biggest discounts, and shows him where to find the cheapest products. Itsuki is genuinely impressed. He realizes that he has apparently been shopping at the wrong place this entire time. Then, without warning, he casually suggests buying some premium beef for dinner. Kotoha immediately stops him. There is no way she is going to let him spend that much money on meat. Itsuki tries to explain that he can pay for it himself, but Kotoha refuses just as quickly. She will not stand there and watch him waste money. At this point, Kotoha starts wondering whether this guy is secretly rich or simply has a completely different understanding of money. So she asks him directly. Itsuki casually reveals that he does not even know exactly how much money he has. He then mentions that his family has quite a few doctors. Kotoha's brain practically crashes. That does not sound like ordinary money. That sounds like serious money. She then connects his background to Sachio, but Itsuki explains that Sachio is something of a rebel in the family. She had some problems in the past and eventually left everything behind. Honestly, Kotoha thinks that sounds exactly like Sachio. Itsuki then admits that he also does not particularly enjoy staying at home. In a way, taking care of the boarding house gives him a reason to stay away from his family. Kotoha listens to him, but somewhere along the way, her thoughts suddenly shift toward food again. She starts thinking about nutrition and how important it is to get enough of it, as if she has suddenly unlocked a new level of health awareness. The timing could not be more random. Eventually, they finish shopping, pay for everything, and leave the store together. For Kotoha, it was supposed to be a simple shopping trip. Instead, she has discovered that her temporary landlord might be ridiculously wealthy and surprisingly casual about it. On their way home, Itsuki admits that shopping with her turned out to be more interesting than he expected. Kotoha proudly agrees. She starts explaining how important timing is when shopping, even pointing out that waiting another minute can sometimes mean getting a better deal. It is obvious that she knows exactly what she is doing. Then, without warning, her tone becomes a little more serious. She tells Itsuki that the boarding house is now a place he can come home to, so he should start thinking of it that way. The simple statement affects Itsuki more than she expects. Kotoha immediately realizes what she just said and tries to change the subject as quickly as possible. Nice recovery attempt. Unfortunately, the damage has already been done. She then leads him to a deli she often visits. The moment they walk inside, the shop owner recognizes Kotoha and warmly welcomes her like a regular customer. Kotoha orders her usual food without hesitation. Then the owner notices Itsuki. She immediately jumps to the wrong conclusion and assumes he is Kotoha's boyfriend. She even starts complimenting him and getting excited about the two of them. Itsuki simply laughs. Kotoha, meanwhile, completely panics and quickly corrects her, explaining that Itsuki is only her temporary landlord. The shop owner becomes curious and asks about Sachio. When she hears that Sachio injured her back, her reaction is surprisingly blunt. She basically says that Sachio brought it on herself. There is absolutely no sympathy. Then, as if nothing happened, she offers Kotoha her usual food. Itsuki watches everything in confusion. He is beginning to realize that there is an entire side of Kotoha he has never seen before. Kotoha then explains the deli's little tradition as if she is introducing him to a serious competition. If she wins at rock, paper, scissors, she gets a free croquette. If she loses, she has to buy another one. Simple rules. High stakes. No mercy. They play. And unfortunately for Kotoha, she loses again. The shop owner proudly celebrates her winning streak, but then decides to give Kotoha a free croquette anyway just for fun. Kotoha immediately becomes excited. She is still desperately trying to clear up the boyfriend misunderstanding, but she has no problem accepting the free food. As they leave the shop, Kotoha laughs freely. She seems much more relaxed than usual. Itsuki notices the difference immediately. This version of Kotoha feels lighter, happier, and almost carefree. On the way home, Itsuki comments on how funny the shop owner is. Kotoha agrees and explains that the woman has always been close to Sachio. Then Kotoha casually hands Itsuki the food and starts eating while they walk. Itsuki looks confused. Apparently, he has never considered eating food before getting home. Kotoha is shocked that this is even strange to him. For her, eating something warm immediately is completely normal. For Itsuki, however, it seems like he has just discovered an entirely new way of life. Kotoha then starts wondering whether Itsuki even has any friends. Itsuki immediately points out that asking something like that is pretty rude. Kotoha tells him to stop complaining and simply try the croquette. She takes the first bite herself, practically demonstrating how it is supposed to be eaten. The moment Itsuki bites into it, his expression changes. He admits that it actually tastes good. Kotoha immediately becomes proud and declares that these croquettes are the best in the entire world. She explains that eating them while walking home somehow makes them taste even better. And honestly, Itsuki can see her point. He agrees with her, and for a moment, the two of them look like they have stepped into a simple rom-com scene. But then Kotoha becomes serious again. She tells Itsuki to stop trying so hard with the housework and stop acting like he needs to do everything perfectly. To her, the boarding house is his home too. It is not some workplace where he has to constantly prove himself. She does not want to feel like she is being treated like a helpless child. Kotoha insists that she can take care of herself. Itsuki listens quietly before asking a simple question. Does that mean he no longer needs to spoil her? That single sentence hits Kotoha right in the heart. Her mind freezes. She starts overthinking what he actually means by spoil. Meanwhile, Itsuki simply smiles, almost as if he knew exactly what kind of reaction his words would cause. Back at the house, however, he immediately proves that he has not changed at all. He serves Kotoha a plate full of vegetables and makes sure she eats properly. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Kotoha at her part-time job, where she moves around confidently and handles the customers like a professional. The manager apologizes for suddenly asking Kotoha to work an extra shift, but she quickly brushes it off. She was planning to earn money anyway, so she does not mind. However, her intense expression makes the manager nervous. He immediately starts wondering if he said something wrong. Kotoha soon realizes what is actually going on. The usual troublemaker, Sriyama, has skipped work again. The manager explains Shriyama's latest excuse, claiming that some aliens asked him for directions to a space center. Kotoha can only stare at him. What kind of excuse is that? Even the manager has no idea what to make of it. At this point, both of them are starting to question reality. Kotoha suggests that they should simply fire Shriyama since this keeps happening. But the manager hesitates, explaining that Shriyama is not actually a bad person. Still, his constant absences are clearly causing trouble. Watching the manager struggle with the situation, Kotoha realizes that he is the kind of person who has trouble saying no to others. And honestly, that probably makes things even harder. Then another thought suddenly crosses Kotoha's mind. She remembers that she needs to let Itsuki know she will be late. She reaches for her phone, then freezes. She does not have Itsuki's contact information. Instant regret hits her. Her mind starts racing. Should she call the boarding house? Does she even remember the number? Should she somehow rush home before returning to work? But she cannot simply leave her shift. Now she is stuck worrying about something that should have been incredibly simple. They never exchanged contact information. And somehow, that tiny mistake has turned into a full-blown problem. Classic Kotoha. She tries to discuss it with the manager, but before she can do anything, the shop suddenly becomes extremely busy. Customers begin flooding in with all kinds of requests. Packages need to be handled. The copy machine starts causing problems. People need postage, and everything seems to go wrong at the same time. Kotoha's calm workday turns into complete chaos. She barely has time to think as one problem after another appears. Orders keep coming, machines act up, customers keep asking questions, and Kotoha simply keeps moving. By the time the rush finally dies down, she is completely exhausted. She takes a deep breath, thinking the worst is finally over. Then she checks the time. It is already 8 in the evening. Kotoha suddenly wonders whether Itsuki might be worried about her. But she quickly dismisses the thought, imagining that he is probably sitting at home reading a book like he usually does. Then a loud crash suddenly echoes through the building. Both Kotoha and the manager jump. The manager immediately starts panicking, imagining all kinds of frightening possibilities. Kotoha tries to stay calm and assumes it is probably just the storm outside. Then the lights suddenly go out. Now, even the manager completely loses it. He starts talking about ghosts, while Kotoha desperately tries to keep things logical. She points out that the building is still fairly new, so there is no reason to believe ghosts are involved. Still, the darkness, silence, and strange atmosphere make it difficult to stay completely calm. Then Kotoha notices something outside. There is a figure standing near the entrance. Both of them immediately imagine the worst. A moment later, the lights come back on. Kotoha rushes outside and suddenly freezes. Itsuki is standing there. He is completely soaked from the rain, looking like he has just walked through the middle of the storm. Kotoha immediately asks why he would come all the way there in such terrible weather. Itsuki turns the question around and asks what she is doing outside so late. Kotoha explains that she had been asked to work an unexpected shift. Then she suddenly realizes something. Itsuki did not come here by coincidence. He actually came looking for her. Itsuki admits it without hesitation. He became worried that something might have happened to her while she was on her way home. Kotoha tries to play it off. She insists that she can take care of herself and even boasts about how much stamina she has, as if she could survive anything on her own. But then Itsuki suddenly takes her hand. Everything goes quiet. His expression becomes serious, yet there is still a gentle look in his eyes. He questions why Kotoha keeps acting as though she has to handle everything alone. Of course he would worry about her. That statement affects her deeply. For a moment, neither of them says anything. They simply look at each other, caught in an unexpected moment of silence. Then reality suddenly interrupts. The manager awkwardly appears and offers Itsuki a towel from inside. The moment is completely broken. Itsuki politely refuses and says he will simply go home and take care of himself there. Kotoha remains standing outside, lost in her thoughts. They barely know each other. They have no long history together and no special connection. Yet Itsuki still went out into the rain just to find her. Kotoha cannot understand why that makes her feel the way it does. Then Itsuki casually asks whether she has a phone and apologizes for not asking about it sooner. Just like that, the atmosphere changes again. But something between them has clearly shifted. Kotoha stands there thinking about everything that just happened. She is only his tenant, nothing more. And yet Itsuki went out into the rain just because he was worried about her. Before leaving, Itsuki calmly tells her to contact him if anything ever feels wrong. Then he turns around and walks away as if he has done nothing special. For Kotoha, however, it is anything but insignificant. Her emotions are already running wild. She tries to push the whole thing out of her mind, but the damage has already been done. Then Itsuki suddenly sneezes, and the consequences become clear the next day. Itsuki catches a cold. By the following day, he is completely knocked out with a fever. Kotoha checks his temperature and immediately panics when she sees 38.4 degrees Celsius. Itsuki, despite looking completely exhausted, insists that it is nothing serious. Kotoha refuses to listen. She practically drags him back toward his room and orders him to stay in bed because sick people are supposed to rest. Itsuki tries to argue, but Kotoha is not having it. As she looks at him, she realizes that this probably happened because of yesterday. He went outside in the rain searching for her. The thought makes Kotoha feel guilty. She tries to hide that guilt by becoming even stricter. She tells him that she will get his medicine and that all he needs to do is stay in bed. But Itsuki refuses to cooperate. He grabs the door as if he is determined to escape his room. He even starts worrying about whether Kotoha will make it to school. The two of them end up struggling over the door in the middle of the house, turning the whole situation into another ridiculous comedy scene. Then the door suddenly opens. Kotoha loses her balance. Itsuki instinctively catches her, but his exhausted body gives out at the same time. He collapses against her. Kotoha freezes for a moment before realizing that she is now holding a completely exhausted landlord who has almost no strength left. She complains that he is heavy, but she still refuses to let him fall. For once, the roles have been reversed. Itsuki, who is always taking care of everyone else, is now the one who needs someone to look after him. Eventually, Itsuki falls asleep. Kotoha lets out a relieved sigh. She has completely switched into caretaker mode. She gets his medicine ready and makes sure he rests properly. In the kitchen, she begins preparing something simple for him to eat later. Meanwhile, Itsuki lies in bed and listens to her moving around. He cannot help thinking that Kotoha seems far too determined for someone who is technically just his tenant. As he lies there staring at the ceiling, an unfamiliar feeling begins to settle over him. He feels guilty for doing nothing. The world outside continues moving while he remains stuck in bed. That sudden separation from his normal routine begins to feel strangely heavy. There is also a quiet loneliness to it that he cannot quite explain. Eventually, he drifts off to sleep. Later, Itsuki slowly wakes up. When he opens his eyes, he sees Kotoha sitting nearby and quietly watching him. She immediately becomes nervous and asks whether she woke him up. But Itsuki is distracted by something else. His entire bed is surrounded by stuffed animals. Kotoha explains that when she was young and had a fever or could not sleep, her mother would fill her bed with stuffed toys so she would not feel alone. She says that having them around makes the room feel less lonely. Itsuki tries to brush it off, insisting that he is not a child anymore. Kotoha immediately shuts down that argument. She gently places a cooling patch on his forehead and then puts a small sticker on him as well, as if it is simply another part of his treatment. Kotoha calmly explains that stickers can make people feel a little better when they are having a bad day. Itsuki can only lie there and accept his strange but surprisingly comforting treatment. Kotoha then announces that, just for today, she is willing to make an exception. Since Itsuki is always so kind to her, she decides that she will take care of him for once. She gives him a bright smile, making it sound like this is some incredibly rare event. Then she quickly heads into the kitchen to prepare some rice porridge. Itsuki lets out a quiet breath and slowly sinks back into the bed. Surrounded by all the stuffed animals, the room feels strangely warm and safe. Even so, he cannot help feeling a little overwhelmed. The amount of kindness he is receiving today is almost too much for him to process. Meanwhile, Kotoha works quickly in the kitchen. She chops the ingredients and prepares the porridge with complete focus. The sounds of her moving around in the kitchen create a strangely comforting atmosphere. After a while, she calls out that the porridge is ready. But when she returns to the room, she suddenly stops. Itsuki has already fallen asleep again. He looks completely peaceful, with a faint, relaxed expression on his face, as if he has finally allowed himself to let his guard down. Kotoha quietly looks at him and mutters that he looks like he is in heaven. After Itsuki recovers, however, he refuses to give the stuffed animals back. Kotoha immediately calls him out. The rental period is over, she tells him, so he needs to return them. Before the peaceful atmosphere can continue, Kotoha suddenly notices her friends standing outside the boarding house. She tries to stop them from coming inside, but it is already too late. They have entered the house. A moment later, Itsuki casually appears, apparently thinking they might be delivery people. Hanoka immediately notices him. The moment she gets a good look at him, she is completely blown away by how handsome he is. Kotoha, meanwhile, wishes the floor would simply open up and swallow her. Things only get worse once everyone is inside. Hanoka immediately starts bombarding Itsuki with questions, as if she is conducting a dating interview. Kotoha has had enough. She grabs Hanoka and pulls her into her room, demanding to know what she thinks she is doing. But Hanoka refuses to back down. She claims she is only doing this for Kotoha's sake. She cannot believe Kotoha has been hiding a guy like Itsuki from them. According to Hanoka, he has everything. He is handsome, he can cook, he handles the housework, and he is basically a walking green flag. She starts treating the whole situation like Kotoha has been given a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Kotoha desperately tries to deny it. She insists that Itsuki is not even her type. But even she sounds less convincing with every word. Then Jenny somehow takes things even further. She sits down like a strict interviewer and turns the whole situation into what feels like a full job interview. Kotoha quickly gathers her friends in one corner of the room. From a distance, Itsuki watches as Kotoha and the girls whisper among themselves like they are planning something suspicious. The room is becoming far more energetic than he expected. Kotoha finally reaches her limit and tries to bring everyone back under control. The moment they return to her room, her friends immediately start interrogating her. They demand to know what is really going on with her landlord situation. She is living under the same roof as a college guy. There is no way nothing is happening. Kotoha immediately shuts that idea down. Nothing is going on. Absolutely nothing. But her friends refuse to believe her. They keep teasing her and asking whether she does not feel even the slightest bit excited about living with him. For just a moment, Kotoha has no answer. Her friends immediately notice. They know she is hiding something. One of them even starts dramatically crying because Kotoha is obviously keeping something from them. Then their imagination goes completely out of control. They jokingly suggest that Itsuki might have already done something suspicious. Kotoha immediately explodes. She refuses to let them talk about him like that and defends Itsuki without hesitation. She makes it very clear that he is not that kind of person. Just then, Hanoka suddenly remembers that she left her phone downstairs. She quickly heads off to get it. At first, Kotoha thinks nothing of it. But time passes. Hanoka does not come back. Eventually, even Kotoha starts wondering what is taking her so long. Trying not to look worried, she quietly heads downstairs to check. Then she peeks around the corner. Hanoka and Itsuki are standing together, casually talking and laughing as if they have known each other for years. Kotoha simply stands there watching them. That single scene says more to her than she wants it to. Itsuki looks completely relaxed while talking to Hanoka, laughing naturally without any awkwardness. Something inside Kotoha sinks. She tries to explain the feeling away. Maybe it is like the little gestures customers receive at a shop, such as a cute message written on a drink cup. For a moment, it can make someone feel special. But in reality, it is just part of the service. Maybe that is all this is too. The thought hurts more than she expects. Kotoha begins wondering if she has been imagining things all this time. Maybe she convinced herself that she was somehow special to Itsuki. And realizing that possibility makes her feel much worse than she wants to admit. She even criticizes herself for getting carried away in the first place. Eventually, her friends leave the boarding house, still cheerful and completely unaware of the emotional mess they have caused. Kotoha walks with them toward the station, but her mood remains noticeably different. Even when Itsuki notices and asks if something is wrong, she quickly insists that nothing happened. But inside, she cannot stop thinking about it. She knows she has no reason to be this bothered. Still, the feeling refuses to disappear. So Kotoha decides to confront it directly. She asks Itsuki what he was talking about with Hanoka. Itsuki pauses for a moment. That tiny silence immediately makes Kotoha more suspicious. She starts imagining all kinds of possibilities and accuses him of acting suspiciously, as if he is hiding something from her. But then Itsuki casually explains the truth. They were talking about Kotoha. Her anger instantly disappears and is replaced by panic. Meanwhile, Itsuki remembers what Hanoka told him earlier. She explained that Kotoha tends to act guarded at first, but once she becomes comfortable with someone, she gets close surprisingly quickly. Hanoka compared her to a cat with an attitude. Itsuki also remembers telling Hanoka that he has no idea what high school girls actually enjoy. Because of that, he cannot always tell whether Kotoha is having fun or simply putting up with him. Hanoka then gave him an important clue. When Kotoha is genuinely enjoying herself, she gets a tiny smile. It is a small expression that appears naturally before she even realizes she is doing it. Back in the present, Kotoha processes what Itsuki has told her. Her mood suddenly changes. A huge smile spreads across her face. She is smiling so brightly that it is obvious she is trying way too hard to hide how happy she is. Itsuki watches her and nearly laughs. He realizes that Kotoha is actually incredibly easy to read. Kotoha immediately becomes defensive again. She demands to know what he is thinking and desperately tries to act normal. But she is failing miserably. Itsuki avoids answering directly, which only makes her more nervous. Then Hanoka suddenly runs back into the room. Before leaving, she drops one final piece of information into Kotoha's ear. Itsuki does not have a girlfriend. Kotoha's face instantly turns red. She loudly insists that she never asked for that information in the first place. Meanwhile, Jenny politely thanks Itsuki for taking care of Kotoha and gives him a respectful bow, making the whole situation feel strangely formal. The next day, Itsuki is checking the mail when he suddenly stops. Something catches his attention. He turns the paper over and realizes that it is a notice for a three-way meeting. That sounds serious. Right on cue, Kotoha rushes into the room in a panic. She completely forgot about the meeting. The timing could not be worse. Sachio is still recovering and cannot move around properly because of her rehabilitation. That means the responsibility now falls on Kotoha, and she clearly has no idea what she is supposed to do. Itsuki remembers something Sachio once told him about Kotoha. She does not have parents she can easily rely on. That thought feels much more important now. Kotoha begins desperately thinking about how she can handle the situation, becoming more stressed with every passing second. Seeing how worried she is, Itsuki steps forward. He calmly offers to attend the meeting in Sachio's place. Kotoha is completely caught off guard. She never expected Itsuki to offer that kind of help. She hesitates and tells him that he does not need to go that far, but Itsuki keeps his explanation simple. Having someone there is important, and if the meeting involves school matters or future plans, he might actually be able to help. After thinking about it, Kotoha finally agrees. But then Itsuki casually mentions that he has something to take care of at university that day. He assumes they can simply arrange the meeting around his schedule. Kotoha immediately reveals the problem. The meeting is today. Her entire attitude changes. She quickly insists that she can handle everything herself and tries to escape before the situation gets any more complicated. Itsuki stops her before she can leave. At the very least, he tells her to give him the time. The scene then shifts to the school meeting. Kotoha sits across from the teachers as one of them asks about the person who normally attends with her, clearly referring to Sachio. Kotoha explains that Sachio injured her back and cannot come, so she has come alone this time. The teacher initially looks concerned and asks whether everything is all right at the boarding house. Kotoha gives a simple answer, explaining that someone is temporarily taking care of the place. Still, deep down, she is not entirely convinced that everything is actually fine. The meeting begins. As expected, the discussion quickly moves toward Kotoha's makeup and the school's dress code. Of course, this means Kumada is involved. Kotoha internally rolls her eyes, wondering what century they are living in. To her, these rules feel outdated and frustrating. Her homeroom teacher, Kyoko-sensei, tries to handle the situation, but it is obvious that she does not have much authority when it comes to these rules. She even admits that she wishes she had more power to push back against them. Kotoha simply accepts the situation without making a scene. The teacher then points out that Kotoha has no problems academically. Her grades are excellent. That makes the whole situation even more ridiculous to Kotoha. While the meeting is taking place, something else is happening in the hallway. Students begin whispering as a tall, handsome man walks through the corridor. Everyone seems curious about him. Some students wonder if he is a student teacher, while others simply cannot figure out who he is. Then the classroom door suddenly slides open. Hey guys, sorry for mid-editing, but I noticed a lot of you are watching my videos without subscribing. Our subscribe ratio is literally close to 0. I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot. Thanks. Now, back to the recap. The entire atmosphere changes. A tall man wearing a sharp suit steps inside. He looks far too polished for an ordinary school visit. He casually apologizes for being late, as though nothing unusual has happened. Kotoha freezes. It takes her a moment to realize who she is looking at. It is Itsuki. He is standing there in a suit, looking completely different from the casual college student she normally sees. Itsuki calmly introduces himself and explains that he will act as Kotoha's guardian for the meeting. Kotoha immediately panics. She asks what happened to his university work and why he came after all. Itsuki simply explains that her meeting was more important. Then he casually mentions that getting ready took some time because he has not worn a suit in a while. Kotoha does not even know how to respond. She can only stare at him. It is still the same Itsuki, but somehow the suit gives him an entirely different presence. The teacher interrupts and asks who exactly he is. Kotoha quickly explains that he is the temporary landlord of her boarding house. Itsuki then introduces himself properly. The teacher pauses for a moment, clearly wondering how someone so young can be acting as Kotoha's guardian. Still, there is no time to dwell on it, so the meeting continues. This time, everything feels much more stable. Itsuki handles himself calmly, speaks respectfully, and supports Kotoha whenever necessary. He turns out to be far more dependable than she expected. Once the meeting ends, Kotoha and Itsuki leave the room together. Kotoha finally admits that he was much more reliable than she thought he would be. Itsuki simply smiles, acting as though he did nothing special. As they walk through the hallway, Kotoha suddenly hears Hanoka's voice. Hanoka is talking to her mother and complaining about how embarrassing she was while acting in public. That small moment affects Kotoha more than she expects. It reminds her of something she no longer has. Her expression quietly falls. At the same time, another girl notices Kotoha standing beside Itsuki. She sees a well-dressed young man and Kotoha together, creating an awkward moment as their two worlds suddenly cross. On the way home, Kotoha starts talking about random things, including Hanoka trying to behave more normally. But Itsuki suddenly asks her an important question. Is she really okay? The question catches Kotoha off guard. She initially brushes it aside, pretending she does not even understand what he means. She returns to her usual confident attitude and starts listing everything she can handle on her own. Good grades, a part-time job, living independently. She makes it sound like she has everything under control. But Itsuki is not convinced. He calmly points out that even strong people have difficult moments. Keeping everything bottled up does not make those problems disappear. Then he gently holds her face and tells her that if she keeps refusing to let her feelings out, eventually they will become too much for her to carry. His words reach Kotoha deeply. She remembers how she has always lived. She refuses to depend on anyone. Whenever something hurts, she hides it and pretends that everything is fine. Even when she is clearly struggling, she refuses to admit that she needs help. But deep down, Kotoha knows the truth. She wants someone she can rely on. She is simply afraid that if she shows that vulnerable side of herself, she will be rejected. After a moment of hesitation, she quietly asks Itsuki if he would listen to something selfish. Itsuki smiles and agrees without hesitation. Kotoha slowly reaches out her hand. Itsuki takes it and holds it firmly. The two of them begin walking home together like that. They are not lovers and they are not family. Their relationship is still difficult to define. Yet somehow, being beside him feels strangely comforting. Kotoha even becomes annoyed with herself for allowing Itsuki to get so close to her heart. But she can no longer deny how much his presence means to her. Then Itsuki casually asks if she wants to grab something to eat before they head home. Kotoha's mood instantly changes. She excitedly declares that she wants ramen. Her energy comes rushing back. The story then flashes back to Kotoha's first year at the boarding house. The moment she arrives, two older students immediately notice her. They surround her like they have discovered something rare and start showering her with comments about her appearance. Before things can go too far, Sachio steps in and tells them to stop frightening the new girl. The two seniors continue teasing Kotoha anyway. They quickly become fascinated with her and treat her like their newest source of entertainment. They even joke about taking a bath together. Kotoha repeatedly rejects them, but the more she protests, the more amused they become. Despite how chaotic everything is, this eventually becomes her normal life at the boarding house. Then winter arrives. Suddenly, the atmosphere becomes much quieter. Both seniors become busy studying for their exams, and for the first time, the boarding house feels almost empty. Kotoha notices the difference more than she expected. One day, she decides to visit their room. She brings them some hot milk, hoping to encourage them while they study. The seniors immediately melt over the gesture, calling Kotoha adorable for thinking of them. Then they take a sip, and immediately realize something is wrong. The milk is incredibly salty. Kotoha has somehow turned a simple act of kindness into another completely chaotic but strangely wholesome moment.
Please,
Subscribe.
I need this. My mom is kind of homeless.